What's up guys, how's it going? So today I'm going to be showing you how to install a heated steering wheel on your BMW 1 Series. So this is basically the same for the 3 Series, and actually I'm using a tutorial myself from someone doing it on a 3 Series. So I'm just going to be showing you exactly how to do it on your 1 Series. So I have an E88 128i here, so this is the convertible, but it'll be the same for the 118, 120, 125, 128, and 135i models. So I got this steering wheel on eBay for about $150, and I actually already have it installed. I was just doing a bit of testing. Other things you're going to need are a new Clockspring, which includes the correct wiring for the heated steering wheel. You are going to need some of this tape. It's called Tessa tape. It's what you'll wrap your wiring harness that you're going to make with. You're going to need wire crimpers,
which needs to have a 0.25 millimeter setting. I also used the 0.5 and 1 millimeter squared settings to make it easier.
And 18 gauge, and I believe this is 22 gauge wire. You're also going to need some connections, and I got mine from FCP Euro. So I'll leave the links for all of these in the description. So you're going to need all of these. There's some pins, there's some connectors, and so on and so forth. You're also going to need the lower steering column trim and the button. I was lucky enough to get this whole thing for about $35 with the button and the trim. Let's go ahead and begin this. So first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the battery. So after unlocking your car, the first thing you're going to do is come to the trunk where the battery is located. I'm just going to loosen up this 10 millimeter nut and pull it off and tuck it somewhere safe. You can also wrap it a towel if that makes you more comfortable as well. And just to note, if you have a pre-LCI model that has the key, you're alright with closing your trunk. If you have an LCI model, you will not have that lock. I'd recommend just putting like a microfiber, a towel or something to keep the trunk unlocked yet closed if you want it to be closed, like if you're working outside on your driveway or something. Alright, now with the battery disconnected, it's time to remove the airbag. And to do so, you're going to find two little slits in the leather. See, one right here. It's just like a little dimple with a slit. There's going to be one on each side in both locations. You can find something like a flathead screwdriver or a plastic tool like this. Just going to put it in the dimple. And if you go straight in, you're going to feel an obstacle. You're going to need to go right behind that. There's going to be a metal spring. You just push that, and it'll pop the airbag out like so. And so you can see it better, here's a quick demonstration outside of the vehicle. You're going to see that you come in right here, and there's kind of like a cylinder for your tool to go into. And there's this metal bar here. So what it does is when you push it in, it's going to push that bar inwards, releasing the clip on the airbag, which is like that. Just a note here, it will be much easier if you don't pull the airbag all the way out on the first side before doing it on the other side. So now I'm going to do the other side here. Then you're just going to locate the slit. If you feel an obstacle, it's directly behind that and a bit farther in. And there is the airbag removed. Alright, so now there's going to be two connectors on the top here. And so for here, you're just going to need something small and flat again. Just put it under here. Pop up both sides of the clip like that. Remove. These are color-coded, so don't worry about like labeling them or anything. So just get both sides. Pop it out. And there is your airbag removed. Now I'm going to disconnect these two connectors. This one has a little tab on the top, and this one just pulls right out, but make sure not to pull by the wires, make sure to pull it by the connector itself. Now it's time to remove this 16mm bolt, and that will remove the entire steering wheel. There it is, comes out just like so. And then, since I was experimenting already, this won't be here on your car if it doesn't already have a heated steering wheel. You just pull right off like that. Next, it's time to remove the bottom steering column trim. You can use a trim pry tool. Sometimes you can just use your fingers as well. And to help with this, just unlock your steering column by pulling the lever down. Pull it all the way out and all the way up. You can also just pull up on the top one, which will help release the bottom one. It does clip around metal on the steering column, kind of in the middle on the sides. So that'll probably be the hardest part for us.
And what you can see I'm trying to get at here is a little clip that goes over some metal on the steering column.
And there you are. Alright. So this is going to be replaced by your new one, which I have here, that has the hole for the button. It is possible to do it without the hole, but it'll just require some custom fabrication and won't look or feel as nice or fit quite right. I got a good deal on this on eBay, so I'm going to be leaving the top steering column trim on here. It isn't necessary to remove, but next it's time to remove the clock spring, which we need to have replaced to include this 4-wire connection, which actually plugs into the heating control module on the steering wheel, which sits down here. It has the plug here. The wire just routes along like so. So this is T25, and there's 4 screws. Really don't need an impact for this, but
And after we get these, it'll be time to take off the clock spring.
But before you do that, there is a couple connections back here. This one, you press the tab on the back and pull this like a lever. It'll pop itself out. Then there's this one here. There's a little tab there. It will then pull out. I've already actually started wiring it, but this will be a 6-pin. Probably won't have a tab. Alright, you can now remove the clock spring. And now actually the clock spring is in this round part here. You can see that it is actually a separate piece. So if you'd like to keep your original stocks, if they're in better condition or cleaner than what you got on eBay. Unfortunately, mine from eBay was cracked, but this is the part that you actually need. So you can keep your stocks. Now the difference is, you'll notice on your original one that one of these will actually be a 6-pin instead of a 12-pin. And so the extra pins is what the heating for the steering wheel will be using. Now what you're going to do is you're going to get your new connector. Looks like this. You're actually going to take the 6-pin connection, and you'll see how it's like a little latch like this. You're just going to pull it apart. And then you're going to use a little tool to poke each one of those little ridge things. And you're going to transfer those 6 pins to pins 1 through 6 on your new connection, and then the bottom ones are 6 through 12, which are where we are going to be putting our new wires in. Alright, so I am doing this just as a demonstration after the fact, but you're going to see you have the clip here, and just going to want to put something in to open it up. I did break mine. And then, so you're going to have your pin in here. it's going to be like this. So you're just going to need to take something like this again, and then push it right in there so that it goes against this bit here, pushes it down, and at the same time you need to kind of tug at the wire. It'll release it from here to here. Then you repeat the same process. You just poke right in there while pulling the wire, and they will all be removed. Then you'll see there's 6 pins in here, and these get transferred in the same order to pins 1 through 6 on your new 12-pin connector. So pins 10 and 12, so those are 1 through 6. That is 7, 9, 10, and 12. 10 and 12 are going to the switch, while 7 and 9 are going to power. You're gonna need to have this connection open, so I'm just gonna use something small. So I'm just gonna open it like that, and let's make our new wires. So this is where your 18 gauge is going to be needed.
So I did mistake the 18 for the 22 gauge and the 22 gauge for the 18. So whatever I say in the video, just reverse it. The black wire here is the 22 gauge and the red wire is the 18.
Along with this type of connection here. So kind of I was supposed to use color-coded wire, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to strip some off of here. So I'm just going to strip about that much here. Get our connector ready. Let's see. So mine is actually in millimeters squared, but it's this one here. It's going to twist my wire a bit so it stays straight. So I'm going to first do the wires for the button strip. Then I'm going to get it set up here in my crimper. And there we are. So since this is just going from the Clockspring to the switch on the steering column, I'm going to leave myself a bit of extra slack, but you can cut this relatively short, just like that. Now we need another one, which is also going to go to the switch, so I'm just going to do another one of those. There we go. Alright, just going to cut this pretty short as well. Alright, now we're going to connect this type of pin to the other end, which is going to go into this connection, which the button plugs into. So I'm just going to strip these now. So you'll see that when this is on here, it's actually very close to this. I am going to leave myself just a little extra slack and bundle it up in case though, but it could probably be shorter than what I'm doing here. There we go. Trim some of this extra wire off here. So you'll see I only need about that much. Right about here. I find that actually sometimes I have to start it on a bigger setting so that it like rolls properly. I did there, I rolled it just a tiny bit. Now we can put it in the correct one. There we go. So there's one complete. Again, sometimes I like to just put it in the larger one to start it off so it gets a nice roll. Now I can move it to the small one. There we go. So these wires are going to go into 1 and 3. So here, click twice, like so. There we go. I'm not going to lock it down yet since we do still have the ground, which we'll go into. But now you'll see the 2 pins in there. Alright, so pin 1 on here. It's on the far right, I guess you could say. It's going to go to pin 12 on here. Pin 1 goes to pin 12. You'll hear it click twice. Then pin 3 goes to pin 10. There's 1 click. And 2. So now our button wiring is almost done. You still have the ground, but there's that. Alright, so now we begin with the wiring to the fuse box, so all of this gets power. So we're going to have 2 wires coming from here, from spots 7 and 9 now, and then we already have 10 and 12. And then we have from pin 2, which is a ground wire. So what I'm going to do now is just cut a healthy length of wire for each of these, and we'll figure out how we're going to route it there. Then also I'm going to show you using a fuse tap for now. Eventually I will probably directly wire it in, but I'm going to be using a fuse tap just because it's easier, saves time, and you don't see it, so it doesn't really matter. Again, since I'm trying to do everything pretty factory, like I did the factory iDrive, although I do eventually want to get an MMI prime to put behind there. But did the factory iDrive, factory controller, all that. So I will probably eventually wire it in, hardwire, but for now we're just going to be using a fuse tap. So I'm going to cut an 18 gauge that is long enough to go all the way to the fuse box, which is behind the glove box, and then 2 22 gauges that are also going to the same place. So I'm going to need 2 lengths of my 22 gauge wire just to go all the way from here to way down there. So I'm probably going to be routing it directly behind the radio and climate control modules, and then up behind the glove box. We'll see how we can do that, so I might take these out. But it needs to go all the way from here to there, and we need 2 lengths of this 22 gauge. So I'm just going to give it a bunch, and then we can cut down later, because having too much is way better than having not enough. So let's say we do need to go all the way down there, and then behind here. Then let's give it about an extra foot. So you'll see this is a healthy length of wire, and now I'm just going to cut an identical length. Then we're going to be using our Tessa tape with the 18 gauge as well as the 22 gauge wires here. Keep them all together, and you keep the factory look and keep it clean. Alright, so here's our 2 22 gauge lengths. There we are. So now you can go ahead and pop it into this connector and put the connections on for these 3 wires. So this one will be our ground wire. Here we are. So that's our ground. I'm just going to go ahead and plug this right in. Go ahead and lock in this connector by just pushing down like that. Make sure both sides are fastened. Alright, so we've got our long ground wire pinned up. Now it's just time to do our 2 power wires from our 12-pin connector, which will go into pins 7 and 9. Alright, so now it's time to attach our wiring for power for the heated steering wheel. And so I have cut my 2 wires to general length a bit longer so we can adjust after we put them through to the passenger side. Now these need to go into pins 7 and 9. So what I'm going to do now is attach these terminals, and they will go right in there. Alright, so like usual, we're going to begin by stripping it. Can, of course, like usual, kind of line it up like this to see exactly how much you need to remove. There we go. Now, like usual, I do actually like to start in the biggest setting, just to get the like initial crimp, then move to the correctly sized one. Alright, there we go. And there's our second one. So we can leave the other ends open for now, as we may trim them later. But now let's plug them in. So they go into pins 7 and 9. So let's plug these in, and then we can lock this connector. So you should hear 2 clicks. 1. Alright, so I guess it stopped recording, but these wires now go into pins 7 and 9, like so. Should hear 2 clicks as you push each one in, and now we can lock this up. Like so. So, it's now the time where we can put the bottom steering column trim back in, so we can get these cables all routed, and then we will shuttle them to the passenger side. So I'm going to start here with our Clockspring. So we have the original cable and then the new cable that are going to go into here. So this one, which is on before you have your heated steering wheel anyways, this 12 pin goes in horizontally on the bottom plug here, like so. Then our new plug goes into the vertical 12 pin, which is right up here. So you will need to route this. I'm going to do it above that cable. Should click in just like that. Alright, let's put the 4 screws, they are T25s, for the Clockspring in. Again, if you want to keep your original stocks, can transfer the Clockspring. If you'd like to see a video of that, just put it in the comments and I can easily do that for you. I'm just going to be careful with this impact, and then I'm going to finish it off by hand. They are going into metal, so it isn't really a big deal. You just don't want to crack the plastic. Alright. So now I'm going to get the bottom steering column trim. By the way, I'm going to tape wrap that. But so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to bundle all these cables together. We're going to run it right down the same harness that's there. I just want to get a general idea of how everything's going to go together. So that's like that. And the button reaches fairly easily, just like so. And I think I'm actually going to try to, instead of removing these trim panels, I'm going to try removing the radio and climate control so I can wire it in the same place, but have much easier access by doing it through here. So you're going to want to take this top trim piece off also. There is one connection here, just need to remove, and then it is actually attached to this plastic here, so I'm not going to fully remove it. Just going to kind of push it up like this. And you're going to want the column all the way out. Now you're actually going to want it all the way down. So now I'm going to test the tape our whole harness. It's the 2 power wires and the ground wire. And actually, as I tape them, I'm going to be twisting them around, kind of like this. So you'll see I'm just kind of twisting them around each other like this. And this is quite a tedious process, so I'll be back when I'm getting near the end. Alright, so I'm finishing it up here. So we have the two red cables with the black intertwined. And then I'll move on to taping it all up. And then after putting all this back together, we will work on routing it to the passenger side. So you'll see the wiring is pretty easy. Came out about perfect. I did actually take about that much off at the beginning because I messed up the first strip of that one of the wires. And the black cable is just about the right length as well. Alright, now the way I'm going to do this is just, well, start at the beginning. And I think I'm actually going to go along with how the wires are spiraled. Yeah, let's go. Sure not to put too much strain on the wires, but you can do a little bit just to keep it taut while you do this. And again, I'll be back when I'm nearing the end. Alright, so now I'm going to work on removing the radio and the climate control so we can route it roughly, at least like up to the end of here, and then I'll actually start attaching it. Alright, so now what you're going to do is you're actually going to reconnect the battery temporarily so you can actually put it into drive to get the shift knob out of the way so you can slide the radio out. If you don't have iDrive, step probably isn't necessary. So I'm going to do that and then also pull the parking brake. So I'm first going to engage the parking brake so it doesn't go away when we have it in drive. But the reason we need to do this is so even when we remove the shift knob, is because the radio goes back pretty far. If you have the iDrive. If you have the regular BMW professional radio, it'll be here, and you won't have to do this. But I'm gonna quick go reconnect the battery just to do that. Alrighty, here. Should be fine just for a few seconds, not actually tightened. So, the ignition will have to be on, and put on the brake. Put it right in the drive. Alright, so it actually won't let you turn the ignition off if it's in drive, so we're gonna have to do a hard battery reset and just kind of do it anyways. And disconnect the battery. Alright, so the first thing we're gonna do is actually remove this upper trim. There's just 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these. Please ignore my awful wrapping job on the back. It looks good on the front though, and that's what matters. Alright, so it's gonna be your radio if you don't have iDrive, but trim comes off like so. And you're gonna want to have the ashtray door closed as well. There's this trim, which can get from the sides or the top or the bottom. Usually I like getting it from the bottom, actually. Pops out like so. There is this ribbon connector which goes to this panel down here. So I'm going to remove the climate control. I just kind of use my hands. Comes out like that. Then there's 2 slide lock connectors. You just press the tab on the top and lever it out like so. Should probably get a new connector for here, but that is missing the locking mechanism actually. So then you can kind of get this ribbon cable out of here. Or actually for now, I'm just going to disconnect it from here. It's giving me a bit of trouble. There we go. And now I have 4 Phillips screws for the radio. It'll be 2 if you have the regular radio. 2 on the top and 2 on the bottom. Should probably have an actual space for screws, but alright. So you want to be very careful here because there are important connections behind this. So see if you have iDrive, there's this pin connection. You just press the tab on the side here in, and then pull out. Same for the tan connection. Here we go. Now, this big connection on the bottom, all the way on the bottom, I'm just gonna pinch on the outside and inside. One's a tab, then it's gonna lever out like so, and just come right off. Then I believe this is for the radio antenna. Not sure exactly what those are for. One's probably GPS. I should probably connect that. Tab on mine here. Bit of a workaround method. Alright. Now, I'm going to attempt to wire it. You can see I can get my hand through here actually from my steering column. So, my fingers touch here. So I think I'm going to run it just right along with this wiring harness down here. So you'll see I can take my hand, put it through here. You can see it comes out here. Then also, my fingers could reach, comes out right down here as well. So I can put the wires up through there. You'll see my finger there. I'm gonna run it along. You can kind of see it, this harness. That just goes straight across there. And then we'll figure it out from there. Alright, so we've got the end of my cable here. Gonna put it up through here. Find my fingers and pull right through here. After this, we can then finish putting back together all up here, and even put the steering wheel on. Then of course get the wiring perfected. Right, so feels good here. And for doing this wiring first, we're gonna have it all the way down. Then we're actually gonna have it all the way up. So you can see down here. And as you can see down here, we're first gonna run it along with this cable to about back here. And then I'm gonna have it go in front of that kind of metal bar there. And then see my fingers right there. It'll just go right to that. Alright, so moving on to the right side of the car here, we are going to have to remove this whole piece. So it's here, down to right here. And then it goes up. It includes the glove box and just goes right up to here. See our first screw is there. So the first thing you can do is you see this hydraulic cylinder, I guess. You just need to push back like so, and it'll actually pop the bottom part out from the glove box. You'll see it's just limp now.
So I accidentally deleted the footage, but there are 2 plastic tabs, one on either side on the inside of the glove box that need to be released for it to be able to drop down like this.
And the reason we do this is because we're not actually removing it, but we need to remove this airbag clip, this airbag connection here. Alright, so we do actually have to remove this plastic piece here, as well as this plastic piece, because there is a bit of more screws behind here, and I'm not sure exactly if we have to remove this vent, but first we'll do this. So the first thing we're going to do is we actually have to take back a bit of this weather stripping, just like so, and got to get kind of like under here, and then it pulls out, kind of like so. Alright, now these are going to be T20s, so there's going to be one right here, one over here,
And also a pin that connects to the center console put mine this.
and now that'll allow us to pull this panel down. There is a light back here, a footwell light, so you're just going to unplug this connection before you pull too far. This pulls out, and you can now remove this. And taking that panel off actually removes one of the screws, which is there. Alright, so now I'm just going to put a trim tool in here, and this will help us remove the air vent. Okay, so now this vent is a bit tricky since it has tabs on both sides, but what I found works best is you actually just pull on this bit of like leather here, and then on the other side also. So what I do actually is I kind of pull the whole thing out, then it lifts up, and then pull out on this side where the leather is, and then it kind of slides out like that. I know there's a better way, but I forget. But there's two T20s under here, so you have to just kind of lift up your air vent, not bend it like I am. And with that, this panel is removed. Alright, so now I'm going to remove these 4 T20s here. These are all the same. So what I'm going to do is just... And these are all the same size. Okay, now if you have iDrive, you'll have to remove your cup holder, like so. One last screw for this front portion, right here. Alright, so now it's time to fully remove the glove box, and to do so, kind of gonna tug from this side first. And it's a whole thing, so will be a little bit difficult. So I'm going to pull out and down. So you're just going to pull kind of straight out until you get about this far. And there you go. So it is just all these giant plastic clips clip onto this bow here. So there's a few things you need to disconnect. There's a couple lights. One right there. Actually, that's for the trunk lock switch. And then there's this light here that just comes right out. Then there's the connection for the airbag. And then since I have iDrive, I also just have this USB. And there you go. The glove box is out. Now we have so much space to work back here. Alright, so we can now start bringing our cable through here. Also, you want to find just exactly how I want to do this. So I think I'm going to bring it just kind of, let's see, under here, then out right here. Alright, so now I'm just going to use a few small strips of Tessa tape to attach this cable to this other bundle of cables that are already here. So you can actually unclip this. There's a clip on here. Where's this from? Oh wait, I know that's from. Okay, now I'm just going to start with some pieces to bundle this all together. And depending on the condition of your wiring, might not actually even be the worst idea to just redo this. At least, like, see, this section here is kind of bad, so I might redo that actually. Alright, now I'm going to start by just keeping it taut, and then I'm just going to do one right at the end, then I'll do one in the middle. Alright, and I'm just going to add one more strip between those two. Alright, so now I'm going to put this clip back in place. This goes right onto this part of the steering column. I'd say that's fit well enough. This is in a place where it's good to connect, and this is for the top steering column trim, which now can actually put back in place. So you're going to want to lower the steering column trim again for this, just so it's easier to slide this back in. And there is this connection here. Not sure exactly what this is for. Interesting. I wonder if they make like heads-up displays for these type of cars. That'd be interesting to look into. Right, and there aren't clips for this really, but there are a couple routing points. Alright, now it's time to get the bottom steering column trim back in. Alright, so here we are. This is just going to plug into here. Like that. And just make sure it's in a place where it won't get like tugged on. So you could even tape the connector up to here like that. I think I'm going to leave it as is though. And one note here, is having a bit of trouble. These wires on that connect to this clip, so the whole harness goes to the right of this plastic piece and not on the left. So there is like a specific channel for it. Alright, there's the bottom end. Make sure you get all the clips, including the ones in the back as well. There we go, time to put the wheel on. Alright. So, here's the wheel. Just thread your heating power cable through there. There's only one possible way to put it on, so make sure you don't force it. It should go on very smoothly, like so. And then plug this cable in. There's a bit of rubber holding this down. Goes like that. And there's some routing right here. So just tuck it in like so. Alright, then these two cables go in. Alright. Tightened to 46 foot-pounds. And what you can do is just either grip it with your knees, have someone help you with this. Or what I've done is I actually put my arm like this. And then counter like this. There we go. Alright, now it's time to pop the airbag in. Now we can fit our airbag. Black goes to black, green goes to green. Very easily. And they go kind of like upside down like this. So, you stick them in. And press down the black clip. Then just push like that. Alright. Now it's time to get to wiring. After you make sure that just none of your wires are getting pinched or anything. Alright. Alright, so if you're a bit impatient like me, and you just want to get everything put together again and looking a bit less cluttered, you can now put in your radio and all the stuff for the center. So, same connections. Just go back in place, make sure the lever is open for this quad lock connector. It's actually what I'm going to put in last. So, you have the black, the tan, and the pink. The black one actually goes in upside down. You may have other connections here as well, such as that pink one and the blue one. The tan one is for your USB. If you have iDrive, if you have regular radio, it'll just be the quad lock and the antenna. Quad lock is the final connection that you're gonna have to make on the radio. I find it easiest to actually have the radio upside down so it's near to the top. Then you just push in, lock it in place. You have to be really careful with these connectors, especially since a couple of them are optical cables. Now you're just going to make sure your climate control connections are above here, again below if you don't have iDrive. They each have their own little cutout. Alright, make sure your wires are nice and tidy. Can slide this back in. There's two plastic Phillips looking pieces of plastic there that it slides onto. And now we can screw it in. So there should be 4 screws, 2 on each side. Since I did this as a retrofit and I haven't actually gotten screws, I only have 2. I will be ordering the remaining 2 actually. So I'm just putting the 2 in the middle here. This comes up here where we can now connect our climate control. This is also retrofit. I have a 2008, but I retrofitted it with, that button's a bit sticky. I retrofitted it with an LCI climate control module because I discovered that it was really difficult to find one of these modules that have the heated seat buttons and the top buttons for the E88, because if you have the top down, you're probably not in like a cold climate. Although I did make these work as well, but you don't get the lights. So that's why I coded this in. Alright, so now you can reconnect your climate control. Right, so it starts in the downward position, then locks in when it goes up. And it should click like that. Then you can reconnect your ribbon cable. Should click in as well. Alright, so I put this back in. This just unclips really easily from this trim piece. Just pull out on these. But can't put those on yet because the glove box, see, it kind of goes behind here and then has the screws that go behind that trim. So now it's time to do a bit more of organizing the wires. I severely overestimated how much we're gonna need by about I think I have about twice as much, but better safe than sorry. So I think the way I'm gonna route it is actually up here, probably gonna use a zip tie or 2, then along this bar. So I think the way I'm gonna route it is actually up this metal bar, basically then kind of attaching to this wiring harness, and then along this bar here, and then I think I'm gonna zip tie it. There's a hole right there and a hole right there, so I'm gonna zip tie it there, and then maybe down with this wiring harness a tiny bit as well. So if you have the glove box all the way down and practically disconnected, you'll see this card behind it, which is the fuse diagram. And I read online on Bimmer Geeks that the cigarette lighter fuse is number 8, and we're using that because, well, my car has USB for charging, and it is a 20 amp fuse, and I believe each cigarette lighter uses 1, so basically you just need to make sure that you only have 1 in use at a time. I know that I'm never gonna. Or you can add a fuse. If you're planning to do that, I would recommend watching Fun Cars and Good People's YouTube on how to add a fuse. He did it on an E90 M3, but same process. So we're going to be tapping into fuse 8. You can see right there. And it is a 20 amp fuse. Alright, so I'm not sure what the size is called, but you're going to need this size fuse. You're going to need 10 amp fuse. You're just going to stick it in one of these. and then you can use the factory fuse. Alright, so now we're gonna have to pull fuse 8, which is this one right here, this 20 amp. So now it's time to put this in to fuse 8. It'll go just like so. There we go. Alright, so now I'm going to use my zap straps to secure our new harness along here. So I'm just going to kind of feed them around the harnesses that we are tying together. Going to cut them flush. Alright, and I'm just going to do it along this metal bar here. And doing this routing beforehand will help you figure out how much you're going to have to trim off. Alright, now I think I'm going to do my last one right down here. So there's actually a hole in the metal.
Which needs to have a 0.25 millimeter setting.
So we'll go around that metal bracket.
0.5 and 1 millimeter
then around
squared
that
settings to
harness,
make it easier.
as well as our new one. And that's going to be the last one that I do. Going to do one at the top here, connecting it to our factory harness here. Alright, so I do have quite a bit extra. So, see, our fuse tap goes into right here, so I could actually probably cut it just like right where it is. But I want it to be as clean as possible. So I think I'm actually going to route it over to the left here and do it along the side, so just if I need to replace any other fuses, it'll be as easy as possible. So there's the harness here that I'm just going to tie our fuse tap to. Like that. That's pretty out of the way. Now, for as far as grounding goes, these are our 2 ground wires here. Can use a multimeter to test. On BMW post again, and I've seen that people have been grounding to this bolt here, so that's where we're going to be going into. And for our power, can now attach it to the fuse tap. Alright, so now, since we only need to go to about here, I'm going to first cut it around here so we can get our positive and our grounds to reach the respective places. So you can just cut it like that. And then again, use your multimeter to tell which are which. If you're like me and you're too lazy or don't want to spend the money to get one, you can also turn the car on at this point with fuses in the fuse tap and just see which ones turn the light on the heated steering wheel button on when you press it, because it'll only work one way. So I'm going to strip these now. Then the 2 ground wires you can actually twist together, and I'm going to peel back my Testa tape straight about here.
Which needs to have a 0.25 millimeter setting. I also use the 0.5 and 1 millimeter squared settings to make it easier.
So that gives us enough slack to have these 2 go around to there, and this one to go right here.
Alright, so you'll see that I have individually wrapped the ground wires together and then the power wire at a Y junction.
Alright, so for our ground wires, I'm going to be using a ring connector to connect it to that bolt. So I don't know what size I need yet. So this is a T25, then I'll be able to see what size I need. Alright, so it just looks like this. So it looks like the rings are all the same colors, actually, between the blue, the pink, and the yellow. So I think I'm going to use the blue one. That should give us enough space for both of the ground wires. And here I will pull back the tape a little bit, but that looks good.
Diameter of these is actually so close to the diameter of our screw, so it actually kind of needs to be threaded on here.
I'm literally just going to like screw it on like this. You can rotate like that. Alright, so you want to make sure that the side that's flush, like with the ring where the metal actually comes out of, is like so. So yeah, it's on there, perfect, and this is right where we want it. So now I'm going to actually do it, and you'll see here that it does kind of just like smush the plastic a bit, which is actually perfectly fine. Alright, so I'm just going to pull this back a little bit, make sure that these are twisted together. Okay. So now I'm going to use just a pliers to actually crimp it, and then a heat gun to shrink this. Alright, so I found that an effective way to crimp this is to take a needle nose pliers and a regular pliers. Then what I do, just gonna double check, make sure my wire is in. Alright, so an effective way I found
Just to
to
note
crimp these
here,
is
it
take
will
a
be
needle
much
nose,
easier if you don't
regular
pull the
pliers.
airbag all the way out on the
And
first
so what you're
side
gonna
before
do
doing it on the other side.
is you're gonna have your wires all in here, double check, make sure they're seated properly. Now what you do is take your needle nose, make sure you're getting the metal part here that it actually crimps, not just that heat shrink part. So put it all the way to the end of the needle nose. Then take your regular pliers. What you're gonna do is make sure it's on the small setting. So you're gonna put it on the end of the needle nose. And I'll give you extra like leveraging power to make sure it actually gets crimped. You'll see. Now it's on there securely. So let's heat shrink it now. Got my heat gun here. Just make sure you don't point it at like any plastic or anything. And I'm just gonna heat shrink this. So we've got it heat shrunk on here. Now I am gonna put some Tessa tape on it, just cause I'm kind of addicted to putting it on everything now. Just a little bit here, not enough to go actually undo the screw. But just to be extra careful in making sure that this doesn't fall off. Alright. I just love how much cleaner the Tessa tape makes everything look. Alright. Now, time to actually put this on. So, you're going to need 2 10-amp fuses here. So, it is stock a 20-amp for the cigarette lighter.
And what you can see I'm trying to
So
get
now we're
at
splitting
here
it
is
10 and 10
little
for the
clip
steering
that
wheel
goes over some metal on
and
the steering
the
wheel.
cigarette lighters. So I think basically you just need to make sure that you don't have things actually like plugged in. Like you can have the cigarette lighters, but just not the actual like plugging in a device to both cigarette lighters at the same time while having the heated steering wheel on. Alright, so I'm just going to put 2 10 amps in, like so. You can do that first here. Now, make sure that your positive wire for power for the heated steering wheel goes in all the way there. Alright. Now it's time to crimp. Alright. Satisfied with how that feels. There we go. And I'm just also going to Tessa tape this. There we go. Alright, now time to do the final routing of our connections. Alright, so I'm going to start by plugging them in, and connecting them so I know where they actually need to be routed to exactly. So again, it's fuse 8 here. Just goes in like that. And this, I'm going to put over this way, which will connect to here. And I'm just going to route it up like that somehow. So I'm now going to put this, and I'm just going to do like a test run. I'm going to get it completely threaded on here first, actually. And this is a bit difficult, so I am actually going to make sure that this doesn't like bend at all when I'm doing this. So here we go. So you'll see now it's freely spinning here on the end. And I'm going to screw it in. Then if it's trying to move on you, can just use the needle nose, kind of keep it in place there. Alright, it's looking good on here. Alright, so now personally, I'm going to route from the fuse tap, kind of hold itself in place there, to this, kind of little wiring harness. So I'm just going to attach it here and have the length so you can see you can kind of bend it so it actually goes perfectly flat along there, and then zip ties to this harness. Cut that flush, close enough. And so I think I'm just going to kind of tie these together here to this big harness. And then this, if you'd like, you can bund it up a little. I'm going to, just because I'm trying to go for as clean of a look as I can. So I think I'm going to bundle this just separately a bit down here. Alright, and I think I did a pretty good job. So here's the final result. We have it coming, starting right along here, from running behind the radio and climate control, up this harness to here, where we then have 2 zip ties attaching it. It's running, you can kind of see there, right along this bar, comes down along this harness, where one goes up and around to attach there with a ring connector onto a grounding point there. The other could have cut a little extra length off, but splits from the ground right there. It loops, actually holds itself really nicely. I have a zip tie connecting it there, and the fuse tap sits flush all the way up to fuse number 8. Alright, now it's time to put our glove box back, the vent, the side piece, that piece, and our trim all along here then will be done. Alright, so starting with the glove box. Here it is. See, so this kind of goes like this. So, to put this in, things you're going to need to plug in on here are the light, the trunk switch. That the light has the red and yellow, and then the brown, and the trunk has the brown and black, and yellow and blue. Alright, then you're just going to have your airbag. So that's going to come over. Only fits in one way, so you just push it in, then push the black tab. Alright, so these plastic clips up here fit over that metal bar that we fit our wiring to, actually. Then if you have your USB for the iDrive, I need to get a piece to like actually fit it to here, but for now I just kind of have it pushed through here into the glove box. So it's a there we go. And my plastic screw hole right there just broke off. Oh well, I guess. But anyways, the glove box is pushed in. Can't put the screws in for that now. I'm just gonna go ahead and do this next. So you're gonna want this open, and the one screw goes on the bottom. Two screws go on the top here. Goes in just like that. So you're gonna take your T20 now, and it's these four here, and then we just have the one. All right, now we've got our last one down here. Now it's time, we can put this trim back on. Yes, I know that this is a gloss black. These are matte black. This is like a metallic kind of, but I really don't mind it. We'll see if I can get maybe another matte of this, then we'll do all matte. If I get another metallic, maybe we'll go all metallic. We'll see about that. If you'd like to have input on that, you can put it in the comments below as well. So this just snaps in like so. Make sure your wiring is in here good. Make sure these metal clips haven't come out also. These are prone to coming out and possibly getting lost. Make sure that you're not pushing into this ribbon cable either with the metal bit. So make sure that's out of the way as well. There we go. Make sure all these tabs are actually going in instead of over or under, because then they can actually break off. Now, finally, we can put our main trim piece back on. I've seen in other people's videos also, this one on the end here tends to come out a lot. So if that happens to you, don't sweat it. Alright. I just love this carbon fiber look. I used to hate it, but trust me, you'll love it when you actually do it. It is just a vinyl wrap, but as you can hear, sounds like carbon fiber, feels pretty much like carbon fiber, and most of all, importantly, looks like carbon fiber. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and put the vent in here next. So first we have to do these two screws. Alright, our vent can either snap in or slide in. I prefer to slide it in, as you have to for a little bit up there. Place it down like that. Move your weather stripping. This does have clips that go in. It does go up under the side of the fan here, as well as your A-pillar. So just kind of push it up and in like that. Clip it in. There you go. Put your weather stripping back in place like that. And now it's just our bottom panel and down there. Okay, so it's just two, and also secures in this panel on the bottom here. So this is pretty easy to fit in. Just need to plug the light in back here. Alright. You just kind of need to make sure your vents line up here. So just one on the right, one on the left.
And there is supposed to be a plastic pin right here, but unfortunately I do not have it.
Now, you have successfully retrofit a heated steering wheel into your BMW 1 Series. So, I guess the last thing to do is just take it for a test drive and make sure it works. Alright, don't mind that seatbelt. Don't worry, I have one in my car, it's just the tensioner sensor is bad. So I got a new one. Let's reconnect the battery now. Tighten tighten down your 10mm. And take it for a drive, make sure it works. There we go. You can see the light turns on when I press the button. This feature will be great for when it's top-down weather here. And I feel that they have both kicked in. You can tell that the main heating points are right here where you usually have your hands, but it also gets warm up top and on the bottom. So I would call this a large success, but for the price I paid for all of this, I would say that it is very worth it, and especially in the convertible and the climate that I live in, it's definitely a worthwhile upgrade. So if you guys like this video, comment, like, and subscribe, and we will see you in the very next one. Also, if you have comments or suggestions that you'd like to put out there, or questions that you have about this retrofit or any of my videos, feel free to leave those as well.